I happen to be your MC for today. All the best to you all. Before we get into it, I just want to know whether we have all our role takers. Do we have all our speakers here? I see Dr. Kevin, Rubia, some speakers. Kindly turn on your videos. It's so much easier than me having to scan through the pages. If you could please turn on your video, Nick, DTM, if you could please turn on your video. Everybody else can have their videos on. Please do. Then we don't feel like we're speaking to the screen. Nick, Njubi, if you're here, kindly turn on your video and say, yay, I'm here. And Emily, Manjeru, Nakuona, please turn on your video. Let's see your beautiful smile. And Nicholas decided to show us his most beautiful smile first. Do you say beautiful smile for a man or you say handsome smile? Daktari, do men have beautiful smiles or handsome smiles? Right, a smile. Smile can be beautiful. Manjeru, nakutafuta, I'm looking for you. Where is your smile, girl?
I want to say all smiles are beautiful, but bear with me for the next 5 minutes not to turn on my video.
And then you can make your smile even more beautiful. Excellent.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Let me go apply lipstick.
By the way, Vaseline on video, Vaseline works. In fact, my son should give me some Vaseline.
Miss what?
I promise you. Vaseline is your friend. He is my Vaseline. All right, we have our SAA, we have our timekeeper, which is me, by the way. And now I hand the session to Dr. Rubia to do what he needs to do to get us started. Over to you, Dr. Rubia.
Thank you very much, Maggy, Waithiru.
I do need to introduce you, don't I?
If you'd like it, it is fine.
Okay, let me introduce you. Like, who are you guys? Why are you here? Okay, stop sharing for a few minutes. I share a little bit about each one of you. I will talk about Emily when she turns on her video. I'll start with Dr. Rubia, whose beautiful smile has already showed up. Dr. who didn't know, he also doesn't like practicing medicine for one reason or other. He chose to go into clinical psychology, and soon we'll have a master's in it. I had to clear my throat because it is a project that I've been really pursuing, like it's my DTM project for him to have his master's in clinical psychology. He's a member of Downtown Toastmasters. That's why there are so many of them here. And he's the president of Watabaruku Advanced Toastmasters Club. He's therefore my club president. Since joining Toastmasters 6 years ago, Dr. Rubia has served in various clubs and district leadership roles, including being a TLI chair. I think that's when I started to hear a lot about TLI. Well done, Dr. You did an outstanding job. His notable achievements include Outstanding Toastmaster of District Award 2023, Distinguished Toastmaster Award 2025, and first place at the District 114 evaluation contest, where they almost brought the room down, these people of Downtown. 2026, he was the first place winner. You should have seen them. Daktari loves eating. If you see him, you will not believe it, but he does, and he eats a lot. But if you want to arc him, errors in pronunciation, just completely arc him. That is his pet peeve. So help us, God, because many of us struggle to pronounce even our own names. Next, let's hear who Nicholas Njubi is and why we should be listening to him. Please turn on your video, Nicholas. Let's see your beautiful smile again. There you are. He's a distinguished Toastmaster. Again, this room is full of distinguished Toastmasters. He is a data, artificial intelligence, and information security professional. Wow. Even before we knew that AI would take over the world, look at this chap. He is a member of Early Birds Toastmasters, people who don't love their beds, where he serves as the VPE. Since joining Toastmasters in 2018, he has served in various club and district roles. His notable achievement is first place at the District 114 Evaluation Contest 2025 in Addis Ababa. I remember your evaluation. It was splendid. And you gave it with such poise. Fantastic. And in 2026, he got the Distinguished Toastmaster Award. Well done, Nick. Now, Nick loves watching documentaries. You know those things you see on Netflix and you wonder, why do they even upload these things? It's for people like Nick. And he loves listening to random facts. His pet peeve, this one cracked me up. You know, when you go to the bank and there's a pen that usually has a string where you sign forms or whatever you need to. And then if you're like me, you just leave the pen there. You will drive Nick crazy. Nick wonders why we cannot put it back in the pen holder. Yeah, that is something that really pisses him off. Is our girl in town. Emily, have you put enough lipstick? As we wait for her to put lipstick, I'll tell you a bit about her. I refer to her as Warayan, or if you're from Kikuyu land, is Warayani. You have to add the I at the end. She's an award-winning public speaker and experienced TV presenter and MC. As a Toastmaster and former Rotarian, she has held multiple leadership roles. In 2023, she made history as the first female triple champion in East Africa, winning, listen to this, evaluation contest, humorous speech contest, table topics contest. Who does that? She did it, and she's the first female to ever win that. Emily is the founder of Lips to Ears, a public speaking and communication company grounded in the belief that even in the age of AI, ile akina Nicholas Njubi, effective human communication remains indispensable, which is true. That's why we're all here. Emily is passionate about mentoring youth and supporting disadvantaged communities. She's a devoted mother to two accomplished young men. One is, I think, a DJ as his side gig, and that is Ryan, and also Emmanuel. She loves traveling and hates people who litter. Why you and I are not best friends, I don't know. We should become best friends. This session will be led by our moderator. Where is she? Is she coming as moderator? I believe so. Where is Lona Abaki? Lona, are you in town? Are you here?
The moderation will be tomorrow.
Oh, super. All right, I'm ahead of the game. Over to you, Dr. Rubia, to lead us through the session. Guys, turn on your videos.
Thank you very much, DT Maggy. Let us appreciate her with our hand claps emoji and putting on our videos as she has requested. Great. Thank you for those hand claps. I am your first facilitator in this workshop. Thank you for the 55 of you who've joined. We'll begin by asking a few questions. Please type in the chat how long you've been a Toastmaster. Please type in the chat how long you've been a Toastmaster. And if you're not yet a Toastmaster, please say type N in the chat if you're not a Toastmaster yet. 10 years, 6 years, 1 year and 7 months, 5 years, 5 months. Nice, Lydia. 6 months, 5 months, 3 months, Millicent. Great. 9 months. 4 years and 11 months, just under 5 years. Majority of us are relatively young in Toastmasters, and thank you for taking this opportunity to develop your evaluation skills by joining us today. The next question is, how would you rate your level of confidence in evaluating speeches? How confident are you in evaluating speeches? You can type it in the chat. 0, I've never done it. 4 out of 5, 20%, 2 out of 10. Moderate, relatively confident, never. 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10. 3 out of 5, 3 out of 10. Confident, 6.7. Whoa, that's very specific. 4 out of 5. And the last one, 6 to 7 out of 10. Lastly is a question that like one of us, or at least 3 of us, to answer verbally by unmuting. What is one thing you'd like to know by the end of today's session? One thing you'd like to know by the end of today's session? Anyone? Yes, Millicent. Then we'll have Isaiah. Over to you, Millicent.
The one thing, oh, hi, everyone. I was about to jump right in. So the one thing that I'd really like to know is having an opening, that punchy opening when you're doing your evaluation, and also having a good finish.
That punchy opening and a good finish from Millicent Odwar, and she's referring to evaluations. Isaiah, over to you.
Good evening once again, everyone.
Good evening.
The one thing I would like to know is whether you can apply the skills you acquire from evaluation in a real life context.
That's a pertinent point. If we cannot apply these evaluations outside, why are we here? We'll learn about that in a few. Thank you, Isaiah. And last and not least, Mine Minor DTM.
I would like to know how people like Dr. Kevin Rubia comes up with acronyms during evaluation contests and they punch.
Wow. How people like yours truly come up with evaluation content like acronyms and those that give a punch. If we won't have answered all these questions by today or tomorrow, please come to me. I'll drop my pin in the chat so that you can find me. But I assure you that we will share those tips either today or tomorrow. Thank you for your indulgence. As we now begin the first thing in our agenda, which is the introduction to evaluations. Who knows this gentleman pictured here? Please unmute and say his name.
Medley.
I beg your pardon, Nelly Ayodo DTM?
The founder of Toastmasters.
Yes. Called Smedley, right? Yes, Ralph Smedley. And he said, learning to give a speech is important, but almost equally so is learning to listen critically, analytically, and then to give the speaker the benefit. This is Dr. Ralph C. Smedley, founder of Toastmasters International, showing how important evaluations are in Toastmasters and as we learn beyond Toastmasters. The objective of this first session is for you to be able to identify roles in Toastmasters club meetings that build your evaluation skills, explain why evaluations matter in Toastmasters and beyond, third, locate where evaluation resources are found on Basecamp. That's important. And last and not least is to outline what to do before a speech evaluation. We'll do that in the next 25 minutes or so. Let's begin by the 4 core principles of any educational program in Toastmasters. I'll be referring to Pathways. Pathways is the main educational program in Toastmasters. Others include the Youth Leadership Program and Speechcraft. For purposes of this session, we'll be talking about pathways. The first thing is experiential learning, meaning you and I as Toastmasters learn by doing. Without doing it live, you're not able to practice or learn or improve or even know where to improve. The next is mentoring. When Toastmasters join a club, they are assigned a mentor. Do you have a Toastmasters mentor? Please type in the chat Y for yes and N for no if you do not have one. Y from Roland. Then we have many Ys. That means majority of us in Toastmasters. Thank you. Because now I'm called upon a mentor. I've seen that. I'm not so sure about that. Because now I'm called upon to mentor. Nena, it's still important if you can find a mentor, because unless you have already felt that you do not need one, but being a mentor does not mean you also cannot be a mentee. Well done. Mentorship is a very important pillar in Toastmasters, so much so that people who do not have that support may not end up continuing their journey in Toastmasters. Self-paced program. Unlike a university degree or primary school or high school, you are not required to finish a certain, let's say, program or level or path in a certain year or period. It's up to you how fast you'll go. This is debatable, however, in Toastmasters, because we know there is something that is called a distinguished club program with 10 goals to meet. That said, there is no point of not making use of the educational program pathways as much as you can, because remember, you are paying $60 at least for 6 months, and soon you'll be paying $72 for 6 months. Peer feedback is where evaluations fall. You and I get to review each other's presentation by offering feedback, and we're going to learn about those skills that will help us become better evaluators. I wanted to ask before I showed, those with sharp eyes have already seen, what roles in Toastmasters build our evaluation skills? Please type in the chat. Thank you, Nena, for agreeing on that, the importance of mentorship. Speech evaluator, general evaluator, grammarian, accounter, exactly. All this tag team, which are timer, accounter, grammarian, and the general evaluator role, and of course, the speech evaluator, help us develop our active listening, critical thinking, and giving feedback evaluation skills. And who benefits from speech evaluations? Someone unmute and say, as others type in the chat.
Evaluator themselves.
The evaluator themselves, how do they benefit?
They get to build the skills that you've just mentioned, the listening skills, the critical thinking, and so they learn also to give feedback in real life.
Couldn't agree more. We all do is what Brenda summarizes. As we have mentioned, the speaker, the audience, the listener, anyone who's listening to the speech, the evaluation rather, benefits from it. Speakers benefit by gaining insights into strengths and areas for improvement. Evaluators sharpen their listening, critical thinking, and feedback giving skills, such as clarity, empathy, and balance. If audience members learn by observing both the speech and the evaluation, and clubs as a whole build a culture of growth and constructive feedback. So much so that once upon a time in Toastmasters, people used to go to SEMA, Toastmasters Club, because they knew they would get detailed, honest feedback. I hope it's the same nowadays. You can type in the chat and let us know if you're from SEMA, if things have changed or the quality remains the same. Isaiah had asked, are there ways to apply evaluation skills beyond Toastmasters? Anyone who thinks that evaluations can be applied in Toastmasters, please raise your hand so that I may call on you to share why you think so.
I don't know,
Yes.
but
Is that Paddy? That sounds like Paddy.
yeah.
Oh, great. You shall
But
know shortly. Don't worry. And thank you for that. Let's hear from
giving feedback to colleagues at work. I find that
fantastic.
Toastmasters
Sorry.
of focusing on weaknesses as areas of opportunity for growth is impactful and positive while giving feedback at work.
Exemplary. Thank you for that contribution. Feedback at work to colleagues. We'll hear from Ntesang and then Nena. Someone else had raised their hand. I don't know where it is gone, but I'll ask Ntesang to first unmute. Over to you, Ntesang.
For me, I think evaluations outside of Toastmasters help with developing a skill of judging or assessing based on a set criteria. I think it also develops in us both the skill of being able to evaluate any situation objectively and also receiving feedback ourselves without feeling like it's an attack or criticism as it might have been when we became new Toastmasters. So with practice, continued practice, I realized that I started to become objective, especially set based on criteria, and I became better in accepting feedback and providing it outside of Toastmasters. Thank you.
Thank you, and well put. I too have benefited a lot, especially in receiving feedback. I remember my first evaluation, I was asked to repeat, and I really felt like it was a personal attack. And thanks to the support from my mentor and my evaluator, I am now an evaluation champion. It's important to learn how to receive feedback. That's the only way we grow. We'll hear from Nena, Jeremy, and Millicent for now. Please take 30 seconds or less to give your response. Nena?
Greetings, fellow Toastmasters. I do believe that evaluation skills has a spillover effect on every areas of our life, be it social, personal, professional. Professional, I think one of my fellow Toastmasters has already said about it in a meeting when you're asked to give your point of view on a particular project. Social, when we are talking amongst friends and families, and we have to give our feedback, so we know how to couch it, positive, negative, and positive, the sandwich effect, so that it is more palatable. And even with our spouse at home, when they ask us they want to do a particular project, or our child they want to do something, so we're able to say it in a more positive way. And also receiving the feedback, the criticism, it makes it more, we are more tolerant, I think. We become more tolerant to receive feedback and to process it calmly without getting emotional. Evaluation has helped me in these areas of my life. Over to you.
Thank you. It's evident how evaluations have affected all realms of your life, including your relationships. Jeremy?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I think Cindy has encapsulated what I wanted to say quite well, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Millicent?
For me, and what I can tell Isaiah is I'm using it a lot in parenting, because I'm one of those people who didn't know how to listen, and then my kids will talk, and then when I try to talk, they're like, you didn't understand anything we said. So it is helping me to actively listen to what they are saying, capture the feelings, capture if it's making sense, and how can I make sense of the entire situation without going out of the way. Yeah.
Thank you, Millicent. It's that important, especially with children. They'll tell you point blank that no, mom, no, dad, you did not listen to what I was saying. To summarize what has been mentioned, giving feedback to colleagues or employees at work is one important application. Mentoring or coaching individuals or teams, guiding students, trainees, or children, assessing presentations, pitches, or proposals, providing supportive feedback in personal relationships. This and many more. Now, when you are the evaluator before a Toastmasters meeting, what are you supposed to do? You confirm the name pronunciation of the Toastmaster you're going to introduce. That's important. That means you need to meet them, either asking on WhatsApp or physical meeting them earlier before the actual speech delivery, so that you can clarify, especially if they have a name that you aren't familiar with. I hope, Ntesang, I pronounced your name correctly. Yes, you shall let me know later. Pathway level and project. Because the evaluation resource may not necessarily capture that. The pathways evaluation resource is what I'm referring to. Therefore, it's important that you confirm that and receive the evaluation resource from Basecamp and the entire project in PDF, especially if you're unfamiliar with that particular project. You may be evaluating a speaker in Toastmasters who hasn't done a project that you are now going to evaluate. You could please ask them to share with you that resource so that you're able to evaluate them effectively by going through it. Now we'll have some short exercises on how to retrieve the pathways evaluation resource when you are a speaker and when you are an evaluator from Basecamp. Secondly, I'll show you how to retrieve the how to evaluate tutorial from the Toastmasters website. And lastly, I'll share how you can find the evaluation articles from the Toastmasters magazine. If you have any questions, please remember to put them in the chat. They shall be addressed in the course of this presentation. We'll start with Basecamp. When you log into Basecamp, or rather, clicking www.toastmasters.org allows you to log in to Basecamp. You need to be a Toastmaster in good standing to log into Basecamp. That is what we are doing at the moment. Once you are at your Toastmasters home, by clicking my home, you can click go to Basecamp, which will take you to such a tab. I am on the engaging humor path. It's my third path. And with it, it comes with a tool called story collection. I'll click the path engaging humor. And from it, you will see that I am in level 2. The project that I am in is called Know Your Sense of Humor. I will select that project and go to where it talks about completing your assignment. When you click completing your project, whichever project it is, once you've selected, or rather once you have input what you know, what you wonder, and what you have learned, there's going to be a section that allows you as a speaker to put in your speech title, the date you're delivering your speech, the club. I belong to 2 clubs. I can choose from either club who is going to be my evaluator if they are members of that club. I select the evaluator and I select the evaluation resource and provide any description that may not be captured in the evaluation resource. Let me give an example. I'll just go to selecting the club. I'll give an example of Watabaruku, and I'll select Maggy Waithiru, our MC, and then I select the evaluation resource. Let me just give an example of advanced mentoring evaluation resource, and request a description can be that I've been mentoring for the past 6 months. Here is, I'm going to deliver a speech on that. Once that is done, you save and you email the person. It goes directly to them. Remember, this is only possible if you and the speaker, or rather the evaluator, are from the same club. Remember, it is under the complete your project section of your particular project. That is where you can email them the evaluation resource and they can get it. The other way to get the evaluation resource in Basecamp without going through the pathways, the particular path is, which was under paths and learning, is feedback. When you go to feedback, there are 2 options, member feedback and evaluation feedback. You select evaluation feedback, and there it allows you either as a speaker or an evaluator to send the evaluation form. If you're an evaluator, complete and send a digital evaluation form by searching which form it is and then clicking this icon to access the form. You can download it. Same thing for a speaker. You use a different icon. Instead of using the edit icon, you're going to use the sharing icon to access the form. This is important for anyone who's looking for an evaluation resource if you're not on the exact path and learning. You can get it from feedback, evaluation feedback, where you can use this icon if you're an evaluator, the edit icon, or the share icon. The next thing I'd like to show us is at this place, you can see that there's something called how to evaluate. There is a resource already on Toastmasters Basecamp called how to evaluate. You can get it from this section, feedback section. When I click it, you'll notice that it gives you the tutorial on how to evaluate. Therefore, you just need to go to that place in the feedback section, evaluation feedback, to go to how to evaluate. Alternatively, if you're not on Basecamp, you can as well search on Toastmasters International website how to evaluate, and it will bring it as the top search item, that tutorial, how to evaluate. The last thing I'm going to share with you is how to get evaluation tips from Toastmaster magazine articles. Toastmasters has every month delivered an article called a magazine called Toastmaster. When you click magazine and go to explore in your Toastmasters website, you can select category and search evaluation. Notice that there are so many other things you can search. For example, nerves, mentorship. If I'm not wrong, there should be table topics. Yes, there's table topics. There are many. Explore under Toastmaster magazine helps you categorize certain topics. Whenever you do not find a topic, you can still type it in the search by keyword. But since evaluation is available, I'm going to click evaluation and then I click apply. It will give me all articles from Toastmasters International that have been written on evaluation, and that's where you get all the evaluation tips. Now, back to our presentation. We have seen where to get the Pathways Evaluation resource, how to evaluate tutorial, and Toastmasters articles on evaluation. Now we are going to explore the Pathways Evaluation resource. For in-depth analysis, go to the How to Evaluate Toastmasters tutorial. I'm going to go through the 4 pages of the evaluation resource, the one that you are used to in Toastmasters. Page 1 talks about the member name, date, or allows you to put rather your name, date, the name of your evaluator, speech length, and speech title. Speakers, please fill these details before giving your evaluator the form. It's courtesy, and remember, we're talking about integrity, respect, excellence, and service in Toastmasters as our core values. It's only right if you just fill those things. The member name, that is your name as you'd like to be introduced. Date, evaluator, name of the evaluator, speech length, which is already given, and speech title. Second is the purpose statements, which outlines the speech objectives. And last, on the evaluation, on page 1 of the evaluation resource of Pathways, is useful background information not to be read out during the speaker introduction. That's under the notes for the evaluator. The notes for the evaluator are for you as an evaluator to note, to not necessarily introduce the speaker with. That's important. Similarly, there could be additional information required of you as a speaker on page 1 of the evaluation resource. I'll give examples beginning with the level 1, writing a speech with purpose. There is a place on that evaluation resource on page 1 that allows you as a speaker to actually put your evaluation, your purpose statement. And Nicholas Njubi, DTM, will talk about speech purpose in his presentation. Remember, as a speaker, it's important to first go through Basecamp, all the resources shared on Basecamp, before you finally share your evaluation resource, either via email on Basecamp as we saw earlier, or through a downloaded document. Either way, you're going to give that information here if you're on the writing a speech with purpose by giving a speech purpose statement on that page. Make sure you have filled it before you give your evaluator. Similarly, the evaluation and feedback second speech project requires you to give your evaluator information, background information on your first speech. Remember, the evaluation and feedback project has the first speech where you deliver a speech and get feedback. The second speech where you apply the feedback that you got in your first speech. And lastly, the evaluation where you get to evaluate a speech. Your evaluator for the second speech may not have been the one, may not know what your first evaluator had asked or requested you to work on in your second speech. Just in case they were not present during your first speech, it's important to give that information, what you're planning to incorporate in this speech, on page 1 of your evaluation resource. Therefore, there are 2 projects so far in Pathways that requires you to add additional information apart from the usual name, evaluator name, speech title. The writing a speech with a purpose, where you include your purpose statement. Secondly, the evaluation and feedback second speech, where you write what you're planning to incorporate in this particular speech, having been recommended so by your previous evaluator. Page 2 talks about general comments. That is, you excelled at. That asks for commendations, what someone did well. The statement starting with, you may want to work on are recommendations, what the speaker should consider working on in their next presentation. The third is to challenge yourself, which is an actionable step for their next speech. Commendations, recommendations, and to challenge yourself. In the to challenge yourself, please put an actionable step that they can do in their next speech. If you've given a recommendation, for example, having better eye contact, in their next speech, you could ask them to, if it's online, as an example, to look directly at the camera as opposed to looking down on the audience participants. That is an actionable step they can take, just building on their recommendations. However, when it comes to delivering the actual evaluation, you shall learn specific techniques. You may not necessarily follow, you excelled at, you may want to work on, and to challenge yourself. We are going to talk about other techniques in the course of this workshop. This is just how Pathways puts it on the evaluation resource. And then we shall practice that tomorrow during day 2 of the workshop. In page 3, it talks about the scores per competency. Some competencies are project specific, while others apply to public speaking in general. Express your individuality as an evaluator by commenting under each score. For example, gestures, clarity, you name it. There are certain competencies, and there's a place to add your comments. Please include your comments that explains why you have rated the person as 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in each criteria. 5 means exemplary, meaning the person has reached their peak in that particular aspect. Excels means there is room for slight improvement. Accomplished means the criterion has been met and there is still room for improvement. Imagine the member's work is near the beginning and there is more room for improvement. Developing means that this is new or challenging to them and there is a lot of room for improvement. Notice that if you are rated 3, it is not a bad thing. You have actually met the bare minimum when it comes to that criterion. It just means that there's still room for improvement. This is all explained on page 4 of the evaluation resource and the how to evaluate tutorial. My last tips for speakers are, if you're going to meet physically with your evaluator, please print that resource. It guarantees that you're going to get the evaluation resource back during that meeting, because as evaluators, we are notorious for disappearing and not giving back the evaluation resource. If you're going to meet your evaluator or you're going to deliver your speech in person, please make sure you print it. That way you're at least guaranteed of a physical sheet that you can save later. For evaluators, please request for the speaker's entire project, especially if you're unfamiliar with that project. Do we have any questions or comments so far? Let us see. I have seen let me look at the chat. How do I email a resource through Basecamp to member that's not in my club? Then when I deliver a speech at another club, how do I record that speech? Those speech details on Basecamp, including the club where I delivered the speech and the evaluator. Okay. Kindly clarify, request the entire project. And then I have had experiences of evaluators not giving back the written evaluations. Thank you for the tip of dealing with this. Most welcome. I will use Basecamp to address how to email a resource through Basecamp to a member that's not in your club. First of all, it's not, to my knowledge, it's not possible to email a resource through Basecamp to a member that's not in your club. That is why it's important to download the resource. Yes, either as a speaker or as an evaluator. That is possible. But currently, as it stands, unless someone has tried it and can confirm that it is possible, which will ask you to tell us how, it's not possible to my knowledge. You have to be there. You should be in the same club. How do I record those speech details on Basecamp? That's not possible currently. If you are a member in another club, you can't record that on Basecamp, including the speech where you delivered, including the club where you delivered. Not to my knowledge. I don't think it's possible to do that on Basecamp currently. What can help though is you letting your vice president of education know in advance that I'm going to this and this club and I'm going to deliver this evaluation. If you can even keep that evaluation resource and share it with them as proof of having delivered that evaluation, please do so. Hope that's in order, Toastmaster Roland Sankara. Entire project means, and I will demonstrate that, and that's the last question that I'm going to tackle for now. Let's see, for levels 2 upwards, but you can ask the evaluator. Yeah, I'm going to take, thank you, Roland, and I've seen Maggy's comment. I will stop sharing and go to what I mean by entire project before handing over to DTM Nick, our next facilitator. When you go to Basecamp, fun fact, or this is a tip, whenever you're lost, because sometimes you click something and you don't know where to go back when you're in Basecamp, you can always click this logo. It will take you back to the Basecamp homepage. I will go to Engaging Humor, and hopefully it will load the last page that I was on. There is a place that allows you to see all the resources at the beginning of your project. It's usually the introductory page of that project. The project I have selected is Know Your Sense of Humor, and it gives me, this is because I'm on the Engaging Humor path. It's on the first page of each project, you'll see the resources, a project checklist, an evaluation resource where you can download also and share with your evaluator, especially if they're not of your club, and print the project. That's what I mean by the entire project. So that anyone who, if my evaluator especially hasn't gone through the Know Your Sense of Humor project path, I do not need to wait. Actually, I would advise to not even have to wait to find out whether your evaluator has gone through the path. When you download it, you'll be able to share it with them. So you click download and you share the entire project as a PDF for your evaluator, just in case they haven't gone through the project and they do not know about it. It allows them to also give you justice when it finally comes to evaluating the speech. In case your question hasn't been answered yet, friends, or in case you have a new question, please continue to post in the chat. They shall be answered in the course of this workshop. And it gives me great pleasure to now welcome to this stage Nicholas Njubi, DTM, the 2025 Evaluation Contest Champion. Over to you, DTM Nick.
Thank you, Dr. Kevin Rubia. And as I am about to segue into my session, let's give Dr. a round of applause. He's done an amazing job. For those who feel they need to, feel free to unmute yourself and you relate and clap for him so he can hear it. I'm feeling the pressure. Now I'm taking over after the reigning champion and a doctor himself. Hopefully I'll do an amazing job. And as he is giving me co-host rights, feel free to just unmute yourself, stretch a bit as we enter the next section. It's going to be a fun section. So, Mr. Host, kindly give me. Wonderful, I have it. Yes, if you can see my screen, kindly show me a thumbs up. Wonderful. I'm seeing a few thumbs up, so we are good to go. Let me just ensure the chat is somewhere that I can see. Perfect. So for this session, the objectives are, first, we need to know how to introduce a speaker effectively. Second, how to organize your evaluation in a proper structure. Then third, how to develop an evaluation of speech content. So when we're going through the presentation, you'll notice that different areas that we normally evaluate, I'll only be covering the aspect of speech content. To begin with, introducing a speaker effectively. The standard introduction includes the following. So first, you need to know the speaker's name. So for those of you who enter the meeting without knowing the speaker, this is something that you're required to know in advance and know how to pronounce his or her name. Secondly, the name of the project. Yes, don't ask for the name when you're already on stage. Know the name of the project, purpose statement, or objective. And this is very important because I remember I once read The 1 Minute Manager. It's a book by Kenneth Blanchard. And under the 1 Minute Manager, there's one aspect where he says the 1 minute reprimand and the 1 minute goal. And he says whenever he's giving feedback to his employees, he always has to tell them in advance what he will be looking out for. So the purpose statement is that important statement. I know you're evaluating me, but how will I know I've met the objectives or not met the objectives? How will the audience know that Nick as a speaker met the objectives or did not meet them? And that is the purpose statement. The next aspect is the speech length, very important. Don't go over time or below time. Speech title. And all of this can be gotten from the evaluation form. You also need to know the speaker's pathway. It's important because right now we have, there are more like 11, but the ones that people are active on, the current ones are 6. And each of them has its own unique projects and skills that every speaker is looking to achieve. And also the level the project is under. All of these things are things that we mentioned, and they are very, very important. And the next bit, what have we forgotten? Or which structure have we forgotten to underline? And that is the title, the speaker's path, and the level is gotten by the speaker. But then we end with something called the name, speech title, then name. Very important. By a show of hands, who knows why the title is important? Anybody who wants to try it? Why is the title important? Maybe let me check in the chat. Yes, I'm being acknowledged by our president. Thank you, Mr. William. Yes, Mr. Ivan Sang. Why is the title important?
Thank you, DTM. Nicholas, I think the title is important because it gives the audience an idea of what to expect from the speech. Basically, gives an idea of what the speaker will be speaking about. And so when you are evaluating, then you are seeing is the content of the speech speaking to the title.
Awesome. Thank you. Well done. And actually, you are right. Maybe we can hear from Millicent, who might have something to add.
I think the title is important to make the audience look forward to the speech, gauge their attention so that they're not divided in terms of listening to the speaker or not.
Awesome. I think I already have wonderful students. I feel like you guys already know the content. And from the chat, I see Teresa is saying the title is the North Star. Irene is saying the speech aligns to the title, and the title defines the content of the speech. All of you are very correct. Yes, that is the importance we give to the title. Hence, why we end like this. It needs to be clear to the audience what the title was. So always do a name. The name is Nicholas Njubi. Evaluation workshop, Nicholas Njubi. That's the structure we learned from Toastmasters. And it works out best because it's clear to everyone. They have an understanding of what is about to be said, and it sets the tone. So ideally, the title is also part of the speech. And if you are going to adopt this method, I want us to agree first before we move on to anything else. Show me a thumbs up. Just an emoji thumbs up, because we need to agree the introduction needs to be short and sweet, just like this. We avoid adding too many things. I've gone to meetings where the introduction from the evaluator had too many things, where the speaker works, where the speaker does this, and at the point, it wasn't relevant for the speech. So I've seen the thumbs up, and I'm happy we're in agreement. Now we're going to see it in action. This is an evaluation form. And ideally, as we had mentioned, most, if not all, most of the information, you'll get it from here, the first 5. And you'll see the name of the speaker, the speech title they've given, the timing, and the purpose statement, which is very important. It is the objective of the speech. What I want us to be sure or to avoid doing is don't include the notes. At times, you want to include the notes, but the notes are for you as an evaluator. These are not for you to share during the speaker introduction because it's mainly relevant to you. For us as the audience, we only want to know what is the purpose of Simon's current presentation. And when you look at a speaker introduction, here's an example. Simon Akonde is undertaking the research and presenting project from level 3 of his path, presentation mastery. The purpose of this project is for Simon to learn or review basic research methods and deliver a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. So this is the purpose statement or the objective. He has 5 to 7 minutes to present his speech titled Effects of Global Warming. Help me welcome. So this is where you say, help me welcome Simon Akonde, Effects of Global Warming, Effects of Global Warming, Simon Akonde. And you lead with an applause because at the time, the Toastmaster of the day has handed it over to you. So name, title, name. I think it's as clear as that. But at times you also find there is extra information that needs to be added. This information, you've noticed, it's all gotten from the evaluation form and the brief conversation. So when you need to add extra info, how will it look like? So it is important background information. Maybe Simon is an environmental scientist, and this is relevant for the current speech. Also, does he have his own unique speech objectives that he or she wants to achieve? So this information is what you request from the speaker before you go to the meeting or start the evaluation process. So how does the revised introduction look like? Very simply, this is what it will look like. And I'll only read the highlighted parts. For the purpose, we'll add that extra statement. The purpose of this project is for Simon to learn or review basic research methods and deliver a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. I will also assess the effectiveness of his visual aids. Because remember, this was a request by Simon. So you have to make that statement so that the audience knows it's also something you're looking into. Drawing from his environmental science background, his speech title is Effects of Global Warming. Very simple, very clear. Try to make it as short and brief as possible because we have to remember it's an introduction. We are not taking the limelight away from the speaker. Our job is just to introduce them, sit down, then follow through with the evaluation. Clear? I believe it's clear. Now we can move on. But luckily, Watabaruku Toastmasters Club has an introduction form that they've compiled. And I'll ask Mr. President, Dr. Kevin Rubia, to share it in the chat. And if not, maybe somebody from his team can do that as we continue. Now we look into the evaluation structure. The structure of an evaluation speech. Highlight speech. From the chart, what do you think is the structure of an evaluation speech? And as you're answering a question, this is from Cedric, is it advisable to arrange the introduction from pathway, level, project to the title, or the other way? Or starting with the pathway, then going to the level, then project, then the title? I think people use it differently. Ideally, what we are showing you today is what should be in an introduction. The best way is the best way, or the method I normally use, the one that I have shared, but people use them differently. What we're trying to avoid is you not giving the very important information like the objectives, the time, the title, and name, and sharing the title in the right way, and also avoid giving too much information that's not relevant. I think once you do that, you'll be good to go. That's for Cedric. Now let me see if the rest are introduction, body, conclusion. Emma, Nelly, Teresa, wonderful. And you're correct. That is the structure of an evaluation speech. That's why we always say it is a speech. Just like a normal speech, it needs to have an opening, it needs to have a body, and also it needs to have a conclusion. And when you're going through each segment, the transition needs to be smooth. Let it be clear, this is how you started, this is how you flowed, and then this is how you are concluding. For the opening, you begin with an introductory sentence or two, and we look at the key takeaways from the speech. So try to make it short and sweet. An example is, well done, Simon, on delivering an informative speech on global warming with passion and pizzazz. I will mention two aspects that shown, like the sun, two areas of improvement that could make the next speech brighter. Take note, you've added your own twist because you're using an aspect of the theme, which is climate. Very unique. I would say that there's a way to do the opening. People do it differently. There are those who have acronyms like Dr. Kevin Rubia. For me, I don't normally use acronyms, but try to be creative and fun. The way we normally tell people in a speech, find a way of having a hook, capturing the audience's attention. Do something similar. Do it in your own style. Make it yours. Then to the body. For the body, we have commendations and recommendations. Commendations are what we call the areas the speaker excelled in. Recommendations are areas they can improve on. And normally there are two methods that we use, which is the CRC, commendation, recommendation, and then commendation. Then we have regular method, which is commend and recommend. And normally, and this is interesting, I might get backlash here, but I know the president will order protection, Dr. Kevin. Most Toastmasters use the second method, which is the commend and recommend. Because if you look at it clearly, sandwich method is you start with commendable areas, you put areas where you recommend improvement, then you add other commendable areas. So think of it starting with an area they excelled in, like use of stage, then recommending that they work on vocal variety. Then you add another commendation, such as you liked the sweater they are wearing. You get? So normally when we say sandwich method, that is not purely accurate, but it is what it is. We normally do commend and recommend, and it's a style that is accepted and acknowledged, and it works. So that is the body or the structure of the evaluation. This is where you put in the main points that you are looking at presenting. And I remember from the registration, one person asked, how do I know which points to highlight when giving the the evaluation speech? Normally my rule of thumb is I mention the things that, one, if the speaker continues to do, it will continue improving or bringing out the speech in the best light. And for areas of improvement, I only mention the areas that I feel if the speaker changes, it will allow them to better deliver the message they are delivering. I'll give an example. In a speech, you notice that the speaker did not have a clear purpose, or the speech did not have a clear purpose. The other area is you notice that they mispronounced a certain word. If you can only pick one, which one are you going to pick?
One on purpose.
The one on purpose, even sang. Is there anybody on a contrary opinion? Let's see. Maybe Brenda saying missing purpose. Let's hear from one or two other people. Maybe there's somebody of a contrary opinion. Roland has said missing purpose. Yes. So we are all in agreement. Missing purpose holds more weight. And that is how I try to look at an evaluation. And most people, you can highlight so many things, but remember, you need to keep time. It's 2 to 3 minutes. So you need to plan your evaluation in a way that you don't go above time. That is the body. The body has 3 broad aspects. As I had mentioned in the beginning, we have content, delivery, and language. And for those who attend Watabaruku, this is one of those crazy and unique clubs that evaluates on all 3 or on everything. But as an evaluator in any normal club, you'll be expected to evaluate on content, delivery, and language, all 3 aspects. For me, what is going to happen next is I'll share about content. That is after we look at the conclusion of an evaluation. And then later on, speech, delivery, and language will be shared by the wonderful 3-time champion, Emily Manjeru. So I hope that is okay with everyone. And upon conclusion for the evaluation speech, it comprises of a clear transition. This is where you summarize the commendations and recommendations. You did well in A, B, C, D. Work on E, F, G. Then also end it on a high note. Remember, it's a speech. And just as important as the opening was, the conclusion is still important. All in all, an example. I admired your use of dash and dash, and I recommend working on dash and dash in your next presentation. Thanks to your speech, I am better informed on global warming. All the best in your journey to becoming a more accomplished communicator. And you see, you've mentioned an aspect of his speech, which was global warming. You've also encouraged the speaker. It's always good to be positive and encourage the speaker as they continue in their communication journey. Now we move to content. Under speech content, this is now the first area that we will look at, that I will look at. We have these 5 areas, which we primarily look at when we are talking about speech content. And it is speech structure, speech purpose, speech value, audience response, and supporting materials. Speech structure. as we had looked at, the basic speech structure, similar to an evaluation, is an opening, body, and conclusion with smooth transitions. Let's always remember with smooth transitions, because sometimes the speaker doesn't have smooth transitions and we forget to mention that. For the opening, what are you looking out for? This is where the speaker tells you what they are going to tell you. The body is where they tell you. Then conclusion is where they tell you what they had already told you. Moreover, summary of what they had said previously. And transitions from opening body to even conclusion need to be smooth. It needs to be seen. They started at the gate, they walked in the pathway, they entered the door, now they're in the sitting room. If you need to have a better look at this speech structure, Pathways has wonderful projects like the icebreaker and organizing your speech presentation under the Better Speaker series. Kindly have a look, because everything you are saying is already in the Pathways program and it's easy to have access to it. Speech purpose. When it comes to speech purpose, we normally talk about general and specific purpose. For general purpose, it is the broad intent of a speech. What's the general purpose of that speech? Then specific purpose, it's a bit different because it looks at, but before we go to specific purpose, who can mention the 4 general purposes of a speech? Feel free to unmute yourself and just mention. There are 4 general purposes of a speech. For those who went through level 1 and looked at their project manuals.
To educate.
Who is that? I need to give you Phoebe. Phoebe is saying to educate. Thank you, Phoebe.
To entertain.
To entertain.
To inspire.
To inspire. That is Lydia. Wonderful. Lydia.
To inform.
To inform. Thank you, Joseph. And I think that's what Phoebe was saying, to educate. So it is to inform, to persuade, to inspire, and then to entertain. A round of applause for each one of you, because when you know this, ideally you already know like 50% of the general speech value. So speech purpose is, we have general and specific. Under general, we have 4 key areas, which is to inform, to persuade, to inspire, and then to entertain. When you want to inform, you want to share knowledge, facts, or insights so that the audience understands something better. When you want to persuade, you want to influence attitudes, beliefs, or actions by presenting arguments and evidence. When you want to inspire, you want to uplift, motivate the audience, and often stirring emotions and a sense of possibility. When you want to entertain, what do we want to do? Anybody feel free. This is a safe space. When you want to entertain, what do you want to do? Let me also look at the chat. Maybe this.
To bring about some humor.
Humor, Jeremy is saying keep the audience engaged. Brenda is saying laugh. I've noticed there are a few questions. Allow me to look at it at the end so that we move quickly. So entertain is to engage, amuse the audience. It is often through humor, storytelling, or creative delivery. Yes, so entertaining can be a purpose in itself. For those who like being given statistics and such, when you're being entertained, just enjoy the session. Don't mention that the speaker should have used credible sources. It's also a purpose in itself, entertainment. A specific purpose is the precise outcome a speaker would want to achieve with the audience. So what they should know, feel, do by the end of the speech. It's always important to ask, okay, you've given a speech about climate change. What do you want us to do after this meeting? You've given a speech about becoming a better evaluator. What do you want us to do after this session? This is what we call the specific purpose. And I feel at times this is the area where it is ignored, because you find a speaker giving a very nice speech, but then the audience is left with the question, okay, now what do you want us to do next? For informing, the example could be the speaker wants you to be able to describe 3 healthy stress management techniques. For persuading, they want you to be motivated to start recycling at home. To inspire, they might want you, the audience, to feel hopeful about overcoming personal setbacks. And then to entertain, they might want the audience to laugh at humorous stories about everyday office mishaps. Please note, you're noticing how the general purpose also affects the specific purpose. So that is why purpose is one of the most important aspects. If there's no purpose, at times it is not the speech in itself. Think of it like what was mentioned in the chat. It's the North Star. If you don't have a purpose, then why are you presenting it to people? Now let's move on. Speech types can be derived from the general purpose, and the speech types can be inferred from the Pathways project. E.g., an icebreaker is normally known for being informative. The other area is it can be identified from page 1 of the writing speech with purpose resource, or most commonly. It can be recognized by listening to the opening of the speech. You can recognize, okay, this speaker wants to entertain us. They want to inspire us. Then I want us to take note, and this is very important, highlight it. The purpose statement in the evaluation form is not the same as a speech purpose. These are 2 very different things, and you need to be careful when you're evaluating. Don't assume that the purpose statement for the form automatically means that the purpose is this and that. Because more often than not, most of the evaluation forms I get, they say the speaker is open to giving a speech with whichever purpose they seem fit. Now we move to the next bit. Important aspects. Speech purpose is so important that it guides the aspects that you will evaluate. And this is an example. For informative speech, you look out for credible facts and expert data to back up their claims. That's why when you're giving an informative speech, one of the feedbacks that you can give is kindly look into giving credible sources and the likes, or data on the topic. When you're giving an entertaining speech, what do you look out for? Feel free to type in the chat or even unmute yourself. Stories, wonderful, Brenda. Humor. And I've seen Ivan Sang is asking, how would the evaluator establish the specific purpose? Evans? Okay. Now for the specific purpose, normally it is from listening to the speaker. What is the key message you are leaving that room with? Has the speaker talked, and I think I might need to go back. To this space. For the example, by the end of the speech, and I'll only use the first example to inform. Is the audience able to describe 3 healthy stress management techniques? You've informed them. Have you received this information? Have you been persuaded by their speech? Persuasion is, do you feel like they're directing your thought process towards a certain direction? Have you been inspired to start being a healthy person or something? Have you been entertained? So I hope that's a bit clear in regards to how you are able to decide on the specific purpose of the speech. When you're entertaining, you look at how did the speaker use body language, vocal variety, and stage presence to bring the speech to life. When you are inspiring, it is, did the speaker use an authentic story that connects with you as a member of the audience? And persuasive speech is, what rhetorical appeals were used to persuade the audience? And very quickly, we look into the rhetorical appeals. And we start with ethos. Ethos appeals to credibility. So this is under persuasion. You need to give credibility or an aspect of credibility. E.g., I have been a cardiologist for 25 years. That's a credible aspect. Logos is appeal to logic and reason. According to the survey, and 95%, so that is logos, or even according to World Bank data. Pathos is appeal to emotion. You give a story that appeals to the audience's emotion. Then kairos is appeal to timeliness. It is, they're giving a speech that is very relevant to the moment that we are in. Hence, it becomes more persuasive. And I know this is where we normally struggle with, because sometimes people don't understand what are these key aspects. And for this, I want us to do an exercise. Assuming I'm giving a speech about how Toastmasters should renew during the October renewals, how do I appeal to their ethos? Anybody feel free to unmute and say, ethos. I want Toastmasters to renew during the October renewals. How can I persuade their ethos? Or appeal to credibility? Yes, Millicent?
So I've not finished my pathway, so I'm just trying.
No
So one
worries.
of the things one of the things you can say is tell them as an old Toastmaster, you can tell them some of the benefits you got from the previous pathways that you went through. And then also you can tell them some things to look forward to, how it benefited you, what are some of the skills you learned along the way. That way they're able to see the importance of renewing their Toastmasters membership.
Perfect. Well done. Thank you for that, Millicent. Now let's go back to logos. How do you appeal to logic and reason? Remember, our goal is to persuade members to renew during the October cycle. How do we persuade using logos? Logic and reason. I see there is no comment in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and mention, or even raise up your hand. Ivan Sang, yes?
You could look at, you could break down the amount that they pay and compare it with maybe everyday expenditure. You say this is the amount that you pay per month, and this is an amount that you can use maybe over lunch. And yet, what you are gaining from those masters, this is, maybe get some statistics of how people have benefited from those masters, so that then you put the two together and show them that it makes sense to renew.
Perfect. Amazing response. So you appeal to their logic and reason. And also you can try and mention how Toastmasters is cheaper than most other public speaking courses. I've seen there's something in the chat. Yes, Teresa is saying if you subscribe before 2nd August, you'll save Kenya shillings. Also, that is appealing to their logic. Then finally, how do you appeal to pathos? Pathos, appealing to the emotion. The emotional part. Yes, Millicent.
If you if you're very close to them, you can share a video of your initial speeches before you're able to learn a few skills in public speaking, and then share the latest that you have gained, the required skills that you are looking forward to, and then tell them the difference. And everyone who's aspiring to be a good public speaker definitely will be able to relate with your story. I think that can appeal to the emotions.
Thank you, Millicent. Very, very clear. I think you've done it wonderfully. We also appeal to the emotions in various ways. And one of them is also sharing a video of how you started. Rahab is also saying you can use journey of a Toastmaster who have walked the talk, safe environment to step out of your comfort zone. Thank you. So ideally, the same way we've curated a speech right now, that is what you look out for as an evaluator. If they are persuading you, you look out for these areas of rhetoric that appeal to a persuasive speech. Did they have credibility, or did they use logic and reason? Did they have emotion? And for timeliness, we are just about to renew. So that one, it kind of is inferred in the speech and the season we are in. I believe that is clear. So the next things are speech value, which we look at is, did the speaker say something meaningful or original to the audience? Original thought and logic. Ideally did you feel that the speaker added something to your thinking or just enlightened you in one way or another? Next bit is audience response. Very important. It's still under content. And the audience response was the interest of the audience captured. Were they excited, or did they agree with the speaker? You can see that by them nodding or even smiling throughout the speech. Was the subject appropriate to the audience? If it was humorous, did the audience laugh? Sometimes a joke just goes above the audience, and that is an aspect of content. Then supporting materials in the speech. Was the speech development supported by relevant examples, illustrations, stories, facts, and figures? Were the supporting materials delivered with smoothness in a way that blended with the framework of the speech? At times, there's supporting material, but the way they are presented is not that smooth. So these are the areas that you look out for. And for now, I'll ask whether there are any questions or comments, including questions that I might have missed from the chat. Let me stop sharing for now.
Susan, Nicholas, yeah, sorry,
yes?
I think you've seen it. You've seen it. It's okay. I wanted to highlight that to you. Thank you.
Oh, no, okay. I'm seeing Susan's comment. Are the facilitators going to share the notes? Yes, we are. I believe that will be covered by President Dr. Kevin. I'm trying to look for, considering evaluators are themselves often on a learning trajectory, what weight should one give to the feedback? Teresa, maybe you can give more details in terms of what you're asking.
Certainly.
Thank you very much for an excellent presentation. I'm going to do my first evaluation on Saturday. And because it's my first one, I am learning myself. So what weight should the speaker give to my feedback? Should they take it as like a personal opinion? Like, what is the weight they should give it to it? Because an experienced evaluator might come back with different feedback. Over.
Okay, thank you. I think there's one piece of advice was given is an evaluation is an evaluation. It doesn't matter from where it is coming from. Because remember, an evaluation is always your own feedback in terms of what you noted from the speaker, and it adds value. The same way a DTM can still get feedback from a new member because they might notice things that maybe other DTMs would notice. So for me, what I'd suggest is give it normally and let it hold the same amount of weight to the speaker as any other person would be giving them feedback. There's nothing like this feedback from Teresa is of less value than feedback from Evans. All of them hold the same amount of value. And as I had mentioned, sometimes we try and focus on looking for experienced speakers to evaluate experienced evaluators to evaluate experienced speakers, but there is nothing like that in Toastmasters. An evaluation is an evaluation. So as long as they know the objectives, anyone can evaluate you. I hope that is clear on your end.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. I'm trying to see if there are any other questions I had missed. And Dr. Kevin, feel free to highlight anything that you've seen I missed. Cedric, yes, any question? Feel free to ask a question.
Thank you, DTM Nicholas. While you are giving the evaluation structure, I noticed that you said must have an opening, body, then a conclusion, then a summary. So my question was that at what point should you bring in whether the speaker met the objective of the project?
Opening, body, then conclusion. The summary is part of the conclusion. For me, I'll say it goes back. It depends on you as the evaluator and the structure you use, but often it comes at the body. You remember when you're giving recommendations, you'll be saying, I felt that you did not meet the objectives of the speech, which was effective use of body language. For me, normally I put it under the recommendations so that the summary, the conclusion, I end it on a high note. Because not meeting the objectives is sometimes like a letdown. Mention it under recommendations, then end on a high note. And please note, this is something even I got to know sometime this year. In Toastmasters, we don't say, in the evaluation speech, we don't tell the speaker to redo the speech, but it's something you can recommend to the speaker when you are doing your one-on-ones later. So that's something you can take note of, and I believe will be mentioned by Toastmaster Emily. So you can tell them, Cedric, that they did not meet the objectives, but don't mention that they should redo it when you're giving your speech. That's for later conversations. And I'll listen to Ivan's question as the last one, because I believe I'm way over time. Then I'll hand it over to the next coach. Yes, Evans?
Thank you, Nicholas. And always when you listen to someone who has won a contest, you would want to at least hear some few words of wisdom of how they managed. And I know probably that would come in, but I think now that you have the floor, maybe you can just give us some few things that you did well to ensure that you won.
Okay. I'll highlight the things that I've mentioned here because we'll have a whole session. The whole of tomorrow will be talking about contests and such. So primarily, read thoroughly through the projects, because when you're evaluating at a contest, there's nothing like the speech objectives. It's a random speech. you can evaluate on anything. So it's good to go through the notes, go through pathways, find what they talk about, writing a speech with purpose, body language and vocal variety, because those are the things you will mention during a contest. You need to be well read. For those who don't know what a purpose is, read about what is a general purpose, a specific purpose, so that you mention it. You know, you can only pour from a cup from what you already have. I find sometimes evaluators have an idea, but they don't know what they want to say. So read through the projects. Then remember it is a speech, as I had mentioned. Let it have a clear opening, clear body, clear conclusion. The way you'd normally give an evaluation at a club, if you start working on that, creating a speech structure and working with your own style, even for contests, you'll do it wonderfully and it will just flow normally. I think those are the two highlights for now, but the rest we'll hear from tomorrow. Right now, so that we don't go way over time, I want to invite a wonderful lady, Madam 3-time champion, Emily Manjeru. She is very colorful, very ready. She is our predecessor, so she is our grandmother champion. We all learned from her, and that's why we are standing here. With a round of applause, help me welcome Toastmaster Emily Manjeru.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you are not tired. Can you please stand wherever you are? Because I know sitting through this whole session has been a lot. So let's just take a moment to just stretch a little bit. It's been a long day. Today is Friday's best sister. We're looking forward to Friday, but Thursday is here and it's just about to sunset. I do not want to take a lot of your time. Thank you so much for staying through this whole session. Almost 60 of you. Wow, I do not take that for granted. And I really want to take this opportunity to appreciate that feedback is heavy. Now, can you see my screen? Please confirm.
Yes.
Okay, great. Kevin, allow me to put you on the spot, and in case there's any questions that do come in the chat box, I'm greatly requesting whether you or Maggie could share them with me, because now that I am projecting, I cannot see anything or anyone. We have been told a lot of good things about evaluation, that they are helping us grow, that Toastmasters is a safe space. But one thing that we must remember is that you and I are the safe space for every one of us. And the reason why we do evaluations is to build and not to judge a person. A lot of times we have our own mental biases that can come in the way of how we deliver our evaluation. Sometimes it's subjective. I mean, evaluation is subjective. And so you might find a lot of times what you might see, what you might feel, you might hear is probably based on how you look at the person. But remember, this is Toastmasters, and you and I have the responsibility to give the psychological comfort for someone. Allow me to take a few minutes to just delve a little more into the psychology behind evaluations. Remember, all of us are executives, we are parents and people of authority wherever we are. But the real human is ready and willing to grow, and that person needs to feel valued and safe. Are you that safe space for someone giving their speech, whether it's for the first time or whether they are experienced? Any time you get on that stage is still your first time delivering a speech. Remember, all of us have been in Toastmasters for a purpose. We are here to sometimes even overcome our own self-esteem. We sometimes have a safe space where this is where you find the comfort, the environment where you find friends who can give you feedback in a way that you appreciate it. And when it's given, it interacts with your mind, your ego, your sense of belonging, and of course, your cognitive processing. What is this person telling me? How are they telling it to me? And why should I listen to this person giving me this feedback? Now, the principles of effective delivery. I read a little bit about this and I thought it's really important that we take a step back, because sometimes we get so sucked into, I need to give this evaluation to this person and move on. Or sometimes we are like, okay, I need to be able to give them this feedback and this feedback will help them grow, or they need to repeat it. But remember, it has to be about behavior over the traits. So focus on the specific action at that time and not the personal characteristics. That is to prevent shame. Because some of us have had to work so hard to prevent stammering in front of people. Some of us are really struggling not to sweat or to cave in, because this is probably the first time you're standing in front of an audience. Remember, you have to be the psychological safety, which is the second point. You have to foster open dialogue so that the person that you're giving this feedback to, and remember, you're giving this feedback to this particular person in a multitude. So when you're giving this feedback, remember that you have to give it in a way that feels affectionate, and that person will be like, yeah, I think I should have done that, and I have learned. Thank you for that feedback. Think about this as a visionary. In that 2 to 3 minutes that you're standing to speak to a person and give them that feedback, remember that you are probably shaping their Toastmasters journey. And so the way you give this feedback to them will determine whether they come back or they disappear from Toastmasters entirely. It's even bonus points if you take time and sit with them for 5 minutes before you even give them the paperwork. Sit with them for 5 minutes and tell them, I really loved this. Because then when you're giving a speech, remember it's a speech for 2 to 3 minutes, but an evaluation is feedback. So when you sit with this person, sit with them calmly, ask them, how did you feel about your speech? And they can now, when they're now relaxed, they can now tell you, hey, I think I liked this. I appreciate this feedback. I saw this, someone wrote this note down. Then you give them your feedback based on what you observed, whether you saw, whatever you saw, whatever you felt, whatever you heard. Now that leaves them the freedom to be able to pick your feedback or not. Before I go to the next slide, we communicate in our bodies, right? So how much percentage of our body communicates to everyone? What percentage of the body communicates? Beyond words, beyond our actions, what percentage of our body communicates? Someone please read the chat for me if there are answers there. Any answers coming through? What's the percentage of our body language when we are communicating?
55%
59%?
from the chat. 55 from the chat so far.
55, Who is that?
60. Amo and PB says
Amo
55.
and Phoebe, 60.
Amo. George says 60. Teresa says 80.
80. Ladies and gentlemen, drum rolls, please. Da, 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 da. Our body communicates 55% of how much we want to say. Our words, only 7%. So even as you're working hard to prepare that evaluation, remember your delivery carries the chunk of how this message will be delivered. And then 38%, your voice and your tone. Now I'll take you through delivery with your body. Let's start with your voice. How many of us are celebrities in their showers? I am. I love singing in the shower. I think my neighbors already know I failed in Tasker Project Fame. I have already confessed my age. Therefore, when you are using your voice, I need you to practice your lowest voice. I want you to read the speaker's greatest tool in your lowest voice. We practice this with me. You don't have to switch on your mic, but practice this with me. The speaker's greatest tools. That's your lowest voice. Or even take it down to a whisper. The speaker's greatest tools. Now, bring it just a decibel higher. The speaker's greatest tools. Now, let's take it a notch just a little higher in your normal tone. The speaker's greatest tools. Now, go higher. The speaker's greatest tools. Take it higher. The speaker's greatest tools. And shout it out loud so someone knows you're in a Toastmasters meeting. The speaker's greatest tools. Thank you, neighbors, for understanding. Your pitch will determine how far your voice goes in a room. Therefore, you need to continuously practice your vocal range from your lowest to your highest so that you're also audible to anyone and everyone in the room, depending on the size. Secondly, it's your tone. Someone can be very sarcastic, like your speaker's greatest tools, or probably, oh, sorry, that is volume. Sorry, your vocal variety. I mixed the two. Sorry, volume is how high and how low you can go. Pitch is high and bass and low. My apologies. I have taken that back a bit. Pitch is high. Okay. And then volume is high. Those are different because of how we use our vocal cords and our core when sharing that. Then there's your pace. The faster you speak, the less I understand of you, but then I really appreciate that you have given me feedback. But the next one, using pauses, helps us to sync that you're giving us feedback. Thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate that you took time to deliver this speech. I commend you for the lessons that you have given us in this speech, and I sincerely appreciate the lessons. I sincerely appreciate how you demonstrated your speech, right? Pace. Take time, because remember, you're speaking to different audiences. And sometimes, especially in multilingual audiences, they may not be easily able to process English as fast. Therefore, pace your speech in a way that anybody and everybody can follow your speech. Take a minute to pause, and especially between ideas. In Nick's presentation, he gave two models, the sandwich method and the commend. In these methods, allow us to flow with you by pausing between thoughts. I commend you for giving us a very informative speech. I recommend that you work on your vocal variety pause. In future, you may want to consider ABCD. In between three ideas, give us a pause so that we can also flow with your thought process. Your body, your gestures, your hands. Yo, what's up? Our hands can be our greatest, they can betray us a lot, and they can also encourage a lot. We've all seen people doing this and clasping their hands. It is a sign of anxiety, and it does definitely show that you're nervous. It's okay. We all get nervous at any point when talking in public. Even I right now feel some tinge of anxiety because there's a lot of pressure to finish quickly, and at the same time, there's a lot of pressure because we're all tired. However, I'm going to try and make this fun. In Toastmasters, often we are encouraged to give our feedback with open arms. Just really giving our palms out makes it feel welcoming. Whatever you're saying in your speech, make sure that it aligns with your gestures. So if you're feeling tense, clasp your hands. If you're feeling happy, express yourself. If you're feeling inquisitive, pause to think, what am I doing? Why are we doing this? Which leads me to the next one, facial expressions. I'm not very happy. I'm not very happy. I'm not very happy. Facial expressions carry a huge chunk of how I feel your message. Just like we said, you may be saying, I'm not very happy, but if your face does not show it, then there's a huge contrast. That's where we're like, I didn't get the right vibe from this person. It actually comes from the face. The next one, movement. We've seen people, especially in our fast seasons, we have moments where we feel anxious and we want to move around a lot. And you find that someone moves on stage quite a lot. As I try and encourage my family behind me to be quiet, there's a lot of movement happening behind me. But then we continue regardless. So when you move in that stage a lot, I'm sure you can feel some bit of exhaustion for looking at my colors on my shirt and at the same time trying to follow what I'm trying to say and still trying to figure, what am I doing? Your movement, whether it is with your face, whether it's your shoulders, whether it's your hands, will also determine your delivery of your speech, which takes us to the final part, which is body language. I mean, your presence. As you can tell, I have really, really tried to keep eye contact with you. And that's because I am really working hard towards looking inside the camera of my computer. This is because I want to feel like you are seeing me and I'm seeing you, even though I'm speaking through a gadget. I want to really encourage you that eye contact builds a certain level of comfort. Sometimes giving a long stare can look like, oh my God, what are you trying to look into me for? But at the same time, it communicates that I'm listening to you. I appreciate you and thank you for sharing this information with me. This is why it's important to be able to give eye contact to everyone in the room, whatever part they are, so that they also feel involved in your story. Now let's go to natural gestures. Naturally, we communicate this way. Even I think subconsciously I may have done a few things that may not be very rigid. I encourage you to always observe people as they're speaking. I've grown to do this a lot because I have practiced through it. But the more you practice, the more natural you become. Sometimes I may shift between feet because I've been standing for a while, but that doesn't mean that I'm nervous. It's just showing that I am feeling natural and comfortable in my space. One thing I want to encourage, especially in this one, is that when you're moving, just like you're giving your stage, give the gestures the same weight that you would give your movement, which is the second one. That if you're starting at one point, let's assume you're starting your introduction here. Thank you so much, Joseph, for giving us such a compelling speech. I really like that one of the things that you did very well is being able to interact with the audience with your rhetorical questions. Probably two things that I may recommend to work on are your gestures. I noticed that you clasped your hands a lot, or when you were giving the numbers, they were a bit maligned. I encourage you to practice and then you'll be able to deliver better. This way, you do not feel like you are being so structured and so uptight on that stage. It feels like it's a conversation. That is my style. But then I encourage you to feel as comfortable as you possibly can on that stage. Allow me to take you through an exercise on posture, because this I think is really important. When you're starting your evaluation, when you get on that stage, there's always the compulsion of I have 2 to 3 minutes and I need to be able to deliver it on time. Get on that stage once you've been introduced as the evaluator, take a moment, breathe, and begin. This way, your body feels calmer. You're able to remember a lot more of what the person said or did, or what you remember, or how you felt about the speech. And it also helps, excuse me, with your delivery of the speech. Now, I have homework for you. I want you in the next speeches to watch your own posture. Generally, we try and put our feet equidistant to our shoulders, and as much as we can, let our toes and our feet contact the ground. This way you stand taller, you feel more at ease, and you're able to breathe better. Vocal variety, how high, how low, and even when you're giving feedback about vocal variety, be able to demonstrate. For example, I really like how you are able to tell us the story of your mother when she ran after the chicken. But I noticed that the voice was rather low. I may recommend amplifying your voice so that we can feel the tension and the anxiety of your mother chasing the chicken. Okay? Hand gestures. I think I also did the same thing. Hand gestures. I may recommend that you amplify your voice and complement with gestures as you show us your mother chasing the chicken. My face also did the same. I couldn't help it, guys. It comes naturally. So I may recommend, I'm also applying them as I go, facial expressions. I've already started with posture. I'm going to vocal variety. Now I'm going to hand gestures and facial expressions and visual aids. If you have a chicken, God bless you. But when you're doing facial expressions, make sure that you are able, to the best of your ability, to give a recommendation you can actually demonstrate. Because this person is learning from you. The person listening to your feedback is learning by you doing. So we are more of a show, of a tell versus show when giving evaluations. In the next one, we're going to be meeting tomorrow. Whether you're going to be having a conversation with your family members tonight, or whether you're going to be observing your colleagues tomorrow, or whether you're going to be watching a TV show, observe the speech of about 20 to 30 minutes. Then observe how they are delivering their conversation, their speech, their body, their posture, how comfortable are they? And write down, is it the eye contact? Is it the voice? Is it the posture? Is it the stage movement? Is it the anxiety? Write those down and then reflect about it. What was the most difficult part of giving that evaluation to this person? So it's almost like stepping into their space, and it also helps with a lot of empathy. What was the most difficult part about giving this evaluation? And how do you ensure that your recommendations were specific and actionable? Because in a Toastmasters meeting, just like in real life, true friends give you feedback that you can use. And the reason why we are here is so that you can feel that I can trust Kevin to give me feedback I can use, because he tells it to me in a way that I appreciate. And if you were to do it differently, how would you do it differently next time? So write those down. You may not necessarily have to present them to us, but write them down as a form of practice in especially observing delivery of speeches. Thank you so much. I've come to the end of my part of this session, and I'm looking forward to any questions, thoughts, or feedback, as I have to really remove this one so I can see the conversations happening. Back to you, Kevin.
May I hear your vocal variety by unmuting and appreciating our triple champion, Emily Manjeru.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, for taking time to demonstrate what it means to speak with the most important aspect of our presentations, our body. Any questions or comments, please put them in the chat, and Emily will address them, as I do not see any at the moment. Thank you, Emily. It is now 8:55 p.m. East African time. We apologize for going overboard, and we'd like to find out, could we still extend, because I have a small section to cover on language evaluations and what do you do after the evaluation. As our Sergeant at Arms launches that poll for you to participate, as to whether we should extend the meeting by 20 minutes or not. Emily, please answer this question that has just come to the chat. What is the best way to grow in my vocal variety prowess? What is the best way to grow in my vocal variety prowess?
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. I would like to recommend that I will share a video that actually helped with this, but then what you can do is from your diaphragm, from your core, work from your lowest voice, then go building slowly. Like with every practice session in the shower or in front of people, work with your lowest voice and then increasingly elevate it. Okay, that way you are able to recognize, you recognize your vocal range. You don't have to be loud, but you can also sound assertive. Okay, for soft spoken people, there's always a challenge to want to shout, and that way you sound like you are really stressing your vocal cords. You don't have to. We have seen so many beautifully soft spoken people just practicing their vocal range, but putting it out with more firmness and more assertion so that they do sound authoritative. So between practicing how high and how low you go, also practice the firmness of your voice in a way that it comes out either affectionately or it comes out as strongly. It takes practice. So first of all, sing in the choir, in the shower, until you know, and then come back when you're speaking to people, and those people who may not hear you, you'll probably need to use a lot more of your core to project your voice when speaking, but it takes practice. I hope I have answered the question.
Thank you, Triple Champion Emily. It takes practice. It takes practice in the shower, at home, with your colleagues. And some of these things you'll notice, you do them naturally. When you are screaming at someone, when you are enjoying your match, you don't think, okay, now I need to increase my pace, my pitch, it just comes naturally. We have it. It's just that sometimes we freeze when we come on a stage. Thank you for those tips, and our Sergeant at Arms will now share the results of the poll to find out whether we shall extend or we shall end it here. We can now close the poll and launch the results.
Mr. President, unfortunately, out of our 46 participants, no one has voted. I don't know if that's a definite yes or a definite no.
On my end, I can see that we have 61% yes and 39% no.
Okay, then it's on my end. Thank you.
No worries, and thank you for launching the poll and making it possible for us to continue. As majority of us have said yes. For those of us who have to leave, we understand. Feel free to leave at your leisure. Note there will be a recording on the Watabaruku Advanced Toastmasters Club YouTube page. When you go to YouTube, search Watabaruku Advanced Toastmasters Club. This and tomorrow's session will be recorded. Please still come because there's a gift. And I'm not joking, it's real, but I can't say it now. But it doesn't involve money. So don't get your hopes up. I'll start with talking about language evaluations in the next 20 minutes. And these are some of the resources that we will share at the end of the workshop. This one is called Questions to Enhance Your Evaluation. And it is courtesy of our club president, or rather our immediate past president and past district director, Robert Ndwati Karanja DTM. In evaluating language, consider these questions. Did the speaker use simple, short, and clear words? Evaluate whether the language was easy to understand and free from unnecessary complexity. Secondly, did the speaker use vivid, descriptive words that created mental images? That question helps you assess whether the speaker's word choices engaged the audience's imagination. Third, did the speaker use words that had more than one meaning or were inaccurate? That helps you check for clarity and precision in word usage. Fourth, were the speaker's sentences short, simple, and understandable? This determines if sentence structure contributed to clarity and flow. Fifth, did the speaker use rhetorical devices to enhance ideas? Look for the use of tools like repetition, metaphors, or alliteration to emphasize key points. I will share some of them shortly. Did the speaker avoid jargon and unnecessary words? Evaluate whether the speech was accessible and free from overly technical language, especially in informative speeches. And the last question to consider, fellow evaluators, is, did the speaker use proper grammar and pronunciation? This helps you check for grammatical accuracy and clear articulation, as unclear pronunciation and grammar can distort your message. Those are 7 simple questions you can ask yourself whenever you evaluate someone's language usage. This resource, among the others that I'm about to share, will be given to you at the end of the workshop. Let's go to stylistic devices and their effects. This and the next guide that I'm going to share are from Rafiki Toastmasters Club President, Innocent Wanaswa. He compiled stylistic devices and their effects. And for purposes of time management, I won't go through all of them. I'll just give an example of alliteration, repetition of initial consonant sound. Grabs the reader's attention. For example, the power and pizzazz of the power and the pizzazz. Let's give that example. PP, the beginning of the initial consonant P is repeated. That helps grab attention and also emphasis. More later, once you get the resource. He also compiled an A to Z or A to Z list of literary techniques. You'll be able to now understand what anaphora, allusion, pathos, bathos are. There is a bathos, imagine. One resource I also want to mention is the one that I posted in the chat on the speaker introduction form that summarizes everything you as an evaluator needs. Courtesy of Watabaruku Advanced, this is what we use for our speech evaluations whenever a content evaluator is introducing the speaker. The last is a super evaluation form that has content, delivery, and language criteria for the content, delivery, and language evaluators to use during the 3 evaluations at Watabaruku for content, for delivery, and language. Visit us in the next meeting to see those live. And if you'd like to take up a role as a content, language, or delivery evaluator, please reach out to me via private chat. Great. The next part of my presentation will be talking about what happens after the evaluation. We've discussed what happens before and during. During was content, language, and delivery evaluations. What about once the evaluation is done? What do you do? Once a speech evaluation is done, these are the things that we need to focus on as evaluators. Let me try sharing again. Apologies for that. There we go. After the evaluation. Great, we are on that slide. If you are like me, you'll notice that 2 to 3 minutes is not enough to provide useful feedback. It isn't. However, the whole purpose of it being 2 to 3 minutes is you do not have all the time in the real world to give feedback. Your children will rush you and tell you, by the way, please tell us what you're telling us. Or your boss will actually tell you to get to the point. That's the whole essence of being able to deliver an evaluation in 2 to 3 minutes effectively. Because you may need more time to elaborate what you're saying, or when you are delivering the evaluation, things did not quite come out as you intended. It's good to have a one-on-one evaluation with the speaker while the speech is still clear in your mind, both you and your speaker. Begin that personal evaluation, that's what we are calling the one-on-one evaluation, by asking the speaker how they felt about the presentation. Not necessarily your evaluation, but the presentation, to kind of gauge where they are at. Remember, people are going through so many things even before they deliver a speech. It gives them a chance to reflect on their own performance before you give your feedback. And then use the speaker's response to determine how you're going to respond. Ask the speaker if they need anything cleared up on anything you said. Ask for clarification. Then you can share your personal experience with the project while also addressing specific feedback about the speech the member delivered. I'll give an example of my icebreaker where for my first icebreaker was told to repeat, and sometimes I end up telling people to consider redoing their speeches. I can use that as an example to show that it is not you, it is perhaps the content, but we'll talk about how to deliver such kind of feedback a bit later. Limit constructive criticism to 2 or 3 points. Keep the focus narrow to provide the member with small attainable goals. Too much info adds stress and may dissuade the speaker from trying again. Return your written feedback within 48 hours. That's crucial, evaluators. Please, it's distressing to already deliver a speech, get feedback in front of an audience, and not get the written feedback afterwards. Please try to deliver your written feedback at least within 48 hours. Take notes during your evaluation. In as much as one of us wanted to know how to evaluate without using notes, even the seasoned evaluator who goes to the stage without using their notes makes notes. But do not be a journalist. You're not there to just take notes. You're still observing the speaker. Otherwise, the speaker will be wondering what's happening. Include the audience in your evaluation by asking or saying things like, didn't you notice how Emily stretched her arms to show how she woke up early in the morning? That was a great use of hands or gestures. By asking, did you notice? You're already including the audience. That is just an example. Be specific. These are the evaluations do's and don'ts. We're already done with the after the evaluation. Be specific. What, how, and why. What it is, how did they do it? Why is that important? Or what it is, how they did it, and why should they consider doing it in a different way in the case of a recommendation. Use I messages. I saw, I had, I felt, I noticed. This helps you give your opinion and evaluate the speech, not the person. Sometimes when we use you, it almost sounds bitter or it almost sounds very accusatory, especially when giving recommendations. By starting with I saw, I had, I felt, you are more empathetic to them, and it shows that it is what you actually saw, felt, or had. It's an observation as opposed to a fact. Please avoid absolutes like never and always. That makes it harsh, and ours is to provide feedback in a supportive and motivating way. Be creative, just like how DTM Nicholas had shown an example of an introduction involving the words to do with sunny for climate change. For cooking, you can use ingredients. Feel free to be creative. It shows that you are listening to the speaker. Again, remember, we are of different styles. If that's not your thing, this is not a hard and fast rule. But for contests, such things could stand out. State whether or not the speech objectives were met. It's important to state that they met the objectives. What we shouldn't state is whether they should proceed or not. How will we do that? Coming shortly. Don'ts. Please do not use attempt in the speaker introduction. You may say undertake or deliver instead. Do not deliver a report on what was said, especially for icebreaker speeches. It's very easy to get into that trap. You are an evaluator, not a journalist. And if you are a journalist, we're asking you to evaluate, not necessarily give a report on what was said. We were all there. We heard what was said. We are therefore evaluating aspects like vocal variety, descriptive language, speech purpose. That is what you're evaluating, not you went to school, you went to work, you stayed at home. You should say you should have, you need to, you have to, you did it, you don't. When giving recommendations, consider as I suggest, a technique I found useful is, those are words that you can use. Naturally, you should have, may come out. Be now more aware so that you can catch yourself once that comes out. Speak on behalf of the audience. We were inspired. Did you carry out a survey to find out the level of inspiration? You could say, I was inspired, but don't say we, unless you've done a survey before going on stage. State whether they should proceed with the project. Pathways is not a pass-or-fail program. If you feel they could benefit from redoing the speech, you may suggest to them privately. And this is not my saying, or this is not my, this does not come from me. This comes from Toastmasters International. And there's a resource known as New Club Mentoring Matters. It is the handbook used by club mentors when they mentor new clubs. On page 5, it says, can an evaluator require a member to repeat a speech if the member did not meet all of the project objectives? No. Evaluators are simply individuals offering their opinions and perceptions of a speech or performance. That way, they say, I know, I felt, I noticed. If a speech does not meet project objectives, and sometimes it can be clear as day, an evaluator should point out what the speaker did well and also point out where the speaker could improve. For example, on a speech on introduction to vocal variety and body language, if there was no use of body language whatsoever, you can mention that as a recommendation and say that they did not meet that objective. The evaluator could then suggest in private that the speaker repeat the speech, Ultimately, the member must decide if the evaluator's opinion is valid and if a speech project should be repeated. What are we therefore saying? We can say that someone did not meet an objective. Remember, we are trying not to say you did not. So therefore, you could say, especially with, let's say, let me give an example of vocal variety and body language. I noticed, Nicholas, that you stood hands close to yourself throughout the speech. The purpose of your speech was to help you learn how to use your body, such as your hands, more effectively. That is why I feel there is room for improvement in this area. Now, when it comes to the meeting them, because you're going to meet them still after, you can actually tell them, by the way, please consider redoing this speech. And you won't be the first one to redo this speech. I know of someone who's redone speeches, the same project 5 times. Therefore, it's a balance. It's not easy, but it's a balance. But according to Toastmasters International, not a creation of District 1 and 4 evaluation champions, it is not ours to say whether they should repeat or not. But you should mention how objectives were met, on how they weren't met, tactfully. That's the art of the evaluator. And we should be done. Yes. Great. Thank you so much. The 37 of us who are still with us. Teresa, whose video has been on throughout the whole session. Tomorrow we should have a session on contests, and we will have a panel discussion to make it more engaging. Please remember to log in the same time, same place. Should you have any questions, we shall also address them. Then I will just look at the chat. Thank you for your hand claps, by the way. Catherine, this is such an informative workshop. Thank you for that. Thank you. And we are happy to hold it. Brenda voted, why not use attempt? Attempt is very, like, by the way, they could fail. Attempt is almost like, they're just trying their luck. But they're actually doing it. They're not attempting, they're doing it. They're undertaking. They are delivering a speech on this. Therefore, attempt just brings, are they doing it or are they not doing it? They're actually delivering it. That's why you're introducing them. Oh, yes. How can you join Watabaruku? Roland, you have my number. You can reach out to me. For those of us who do not have my number, let me post it in the chat. And you are free to leave at your leisure. It is now 9:19 p.m. East African time. Thank you so much for being an active audience.